Hey everyone, Chris here, and in this video I'm going to talk about sunscreen for triathletes, runners, endurance athletes, cyclists, whatever kind of endurance sport you're doing. If you need some kind of sporty sun cream, then this video is for you, because I'm going to talk about the brands that are really good. I'm going to talk how to avoid getting sunburnt, and I'm going to talk about aftercare if you get sunburnt as well. And if you want to jump to any of those sections, then you can use the chapter markers in this video to jump right to that point. So sun cream is a big deal for me because I get sunburnt really easily. I've got my fair Yorkshire skin, and I came back from my honeymoon with a cute sunburn, which doesn't sound too crazy until you find out I went to Iceland. I went to a lagoon, it washed all the sun cream off, and I got really badly sunburned, and it was unpleasant. So I have pretty sensitive skin, and so in especially triathlon, I like to really make sure that I get good coverage of my sun cream, sunscreen, sunblock, suntan lotion, whatever you want to call it. I like to make sure I've got some good stuff on. I like to make sure I'm really covered because it's so easy for me to burn. So what do you need? Like, can we just use any sun cream? Well, kind of yes, if that works for you, depending on how easily you burn. But there's some important points that you want to consider. So first of all is, what rating does it have? So you're probably already familiar that it has some kind of SPF rating on it, which will tell you how good it is. This one, for example, is a 30. But that doesn't tell you the whole story necessarily, because there's UVA and UVB, and they might have different ratings. So it's worth looking on the back and seeing what the UVA and UVB rating specifically is, because it might be really good for one and it might be not so good for the other. Second of all, you'll want to think about water resistance, because of course when we're exercising we tend to be sweating, and so if we're sweating, even if we're like just on a run or cycling, if we're sweating a lot, we might wash it off. And similarly, if we're swimming, if we're doing triathlon, again, we're going to be in the water for a long period of time, and so we want to make sure that it doesn't wash off, that it's water resistant and it's sweat resistant, because otherwise we're going to put it on before a race, we're going to go off, do the race, we're going to sweat it off halfway through, or we're going to do the swim in a triathlon and it's going to wash it all off, and then we're just going to get sunburnt on the bike and run. Not ideal. Okay, so what brands are good? Well, I've tested a bunch of them. So this one is Garnier Ombre Solaire, and this one, I've used this one for a long time now. They do it in a bunch of different, so they do a regular one and then they do this UV Sport one, and it's only factor 30. It goes up to 50 or 50 plus, so this isn't ideal for me. I'd prefer a 50, but it's this special sport which is extra sweat and water resistant. So I did use this and it works pretty well. The only problem is it's in these little 50mm tubs and it's quite expensive, and you can only get it in these tiny sizes, so you end up having to buy a load of these, and each one of them is pretty expensive, and it's only factor 30, which is kind of annoying, but this is a reasonable option. So I did find one that was a 50, and this was this Pittsburgh Buin, I don't know how to pronounce it. This is mountain sun cream, so designed specifically for skiers, I think that's the idea. So this is 50 plus, and again, it only comes in these little 50mm packets, and it's small, and I didn't quite find this as effective as this one. I don't know if it's that it's not a sweat or water resistant, but you'd think the 50 plus would give you better coverage than the 30. But my kind of anecdotal, how burnt did I feel after wearing them, I actually think I get better coverage than this and this, so I was a bit disappointed by this. Other ones I like this Ryman P20. So this is a spray, and I think in general spray sun creams are pretty stupid, because like, yeah, well, it's fine for your arms, but what am I supposed to do about my face? Like spray myself in the eyes or I don't know, like people say, well, you spray it in your hands and then you rub your hands, but you can't really see it in your hands and it's all liquidy compared to these nice little creams. So not a big fan of the sprays, but in terms of protecting my arms and legs, this Ryman P20 is good because you can just spray it on there and it is 50, and again, it's proved really nice. So that's a pretty good option if you like the sprays. This is a 100ml bottle, so a bit bigger. I think they only do it in a spray though. I don't think they do it in like a cream or a lotion or whatever, which is annoying. I've also tried Peloton, which is claims to be a cycling specific one. The Peloton only goes up to 30 though, whereas this is 50. So that, if you want to spray, that's my recommendation, the Ryman P20. Except I've now switched altogether because I found this new Sol RX. It's not new, it's just new to me. And this is, so Sol RX specifically target like lifeguards and sporty people. So it's a sports sunscreen. And again, it's SPF 50 plus, so that's great. It comes in these bigger tubs that are 100ml, so like twice the size of these little ones, and it's a higher one, but it's also got this water block technology, which SolRx claim they've tested, and it's waterproof for 8 hours. So most sun creams, where they say they're waterproof, I think they have to prove that it lasts for like 40 minutes. SolRx are saying 8 hours. So super water resistant in theory, and it's available in a spray and a cream. I don't know how, last time I checked the website for the UK distributor, you couldn't get the spray, you could only get the cream. So it might depend on who's distributing in your country. But I've got plenty of these creams now. In some ways, I actually would quite like the 50ml bottles as well, because they're great for transition bags. But it's just nice to be able to buy it in bigger quantities, so I'm not constantly having to buy new ones. Now, in terms of this, does it really work? Like, will it really last for 8 hours? I kind of don't know. They went off and they got this fancy lab in New York to test how waterproof it was. Now, the problem with that lab is that a lot of the managerial staff in that lab, I think, are now in jail for defrauding their customers with fake results. Having said that, there's no evidence that SolRx knew about anything that was going on there, and it's affected a bunch of sun cream companies, and the Australian government have put out a message saying, as far as we know, these fake results don't actually affect how effective sun cream is. So yeah, it's kind of undermined some of the stuff they put out in terms of, we got this fancy lab to test it, and we can't 100% rely on those lab results anymore. But it's not like any of the other sun creams I've gone and looked at the lab research either. I've just personally tried it, and this is pretty good. I wore this a bunch of times. I wore it at Outlaw, which is a full distance triathlon, and I did reapply it in T1 and a bit on T2 as well. So it's not like I tested it for the 90-minute swim or whatever. But I didn't get sunburn. It was pretty sunny for large parts of the day, and it seemed to work. So I'm pretty content. I haven't been sunburn wearing this yet, which is, it kind of makes it as good as this, except it claims to be extra waterproofy and it's available in bigger quantities. So I've now switched over to the Sol RX. That's not to say that I don't also really like the Ombre Soleil and the Ryman P20. They're both good. If you buy those, you're going to get a great sun cream, but I'm moving over to the Sol RX now, full time, I think. Okay, so those are the sun cream brands I like. Let's talk a bit about how to just avoid getting sunburn in general. And one of the most important things is just cover up where you can. So I know like a lot of companies make like really thin like arm covers, like you can get them from Castelli, that are supposed to be super light. Now they're probably never going to convince me that wearing a really light arm cover is going to be as good as it's going to be as cool as just not wearing anything. But I think if it was a super sunny day where I thought the sun cream just it was just because if you miss a bit, you're going to get burnt. I might consider just putting arm screens on. And when it's a bit cooler, I sometimes just wear a base layer, like a long sleeve base layer under my jersey, just to give me that coverage so that my arms and legs are not exposed to the sun. Now, if you are going to do that, make sure that your kit, it gives you that UPF protection, because not all kit does by default. So especially if you're wearing the high-tech cooling mesh stuff, a lot of the sun will just go through that. So make sure you try and buy some kit that states its UPF rating. So like when I'm buying a tri-top, I go for like Orca or Zone 3, because they specifically say our kit is UPF 50, whereas I know some of the Castelli stuff has a lower rating, or Stolengo, I don't think. They say it's got UPF protection, but they don't mention what it is. So I generally try and find brands that are explicit that they're doing UPF 50 ratings. Also, of course, just avoid the sun. Like sometimes I will go out super early in the morning or later at night to try and avoid the heat of the day. And make sure you use plenty of sun cream. So while these sun creams can be really effective, there is kind of a minimum dose. Like if you only put a little bit on, then it's not going to work. And if you contact them, they'll just say, well, you didn't put enough on. I haven't done that, but I know, I think it's mentioned on the back of a lot of them that you really need to put plenty on, because if you don't, it's not going to work. So make sure you put a generous amount on, and make sure you reapply it, even if you've got a super waterproof one. I'm not sure I'd super buy into the idea of once per day sun protection. If you're doing an Ironman and you're out there all day, I would rather be safe than sorry and spend 2 minutes in transition reapplying. But I'm not looking for a Kona spot, so maybe if you are, maybe you want to risk it. Up to you. And then also super important, especially here in England, is to prepare for the weather you're going to face later and not for the weather it's now, because a lot of the time I will go out at 7 a.m. and it will be super cloudy and rainy and look awful, and I'll be going out for like 5 hours, and by the time it gets to lunchtime, all of the clouds are gone. It's glorious sunshine. I am sweating, and I'm like, I didn't go out with any sun cream, or I didn't put enough on because I didn't plan for what the weather was going to be in 4 or 5 hours. I just looked out the window and saw the rain and the cloud and thought, well, I'll be safe. But it's England, you're never safe. It can always change. And I'm sure that's true of other countries as well, that the weather changes a lot. And if you don't plan ahead, then you end up being out there on your bike hours from home and you've got no sun cream, and it's terrible. So always worth applying. Similarly, I always take my sun cream to a race, even if it's cloudy and raining. Happened literally, what day are we on now? Is it? I think it's Wednesday when I'm filming this. Last Sunday, it's Tuesday. It is Tuesday. So 2 days ago, it was literally raining and throwing it down and cloudy when I set off for the race. And as we were finishing the race, bright sunshine, and luckily I'd taken the sun cream, so I had it there and I could apply some. Weather changes, and it's worth having it with you, otherwise you end up getting burnt. Okay, those were some tips to just try and avoid getting sunburnt. Let's talk about what happens when you do get sunburnt. You'll probably want to apply some after sun. Now, there's a bunch of options here. My wife really likes like aloe vera and any kind of moisturizer based with that. What I love is this. Again, it's Garnier Ombre Solaire, and this one's the Sensitive Advanced After Sun. I would bathe in this stuff if I could. It's nice. It's it's quite creamy again, compared to the other one I've tried is this Nivea Sun After Sun Moisturize, and I find this one, it's just not as effective. It's a bit more runny, a bit more liquidy. It feels like I'm putting milk on my face, whereas this feels like I'm putting a bit more of a sturdy cream on. And so it's not terrible, this one, but I buy loads of this stuff because anytime I go out in the sun, I just cover my face in in this Garnier Ombre Solaire Sensitive Advanced, and it's I don't think it's super cheap, but it's the best thing I found for someone who's enjoyed a lifetime of sunburn. This is my choice for after sun. Also, things like just having a nice cold shower when you get back is also recommended, and make sure you drink plenty of fluids to avoid getting dehydrated too. Okay, so we've been through the sun cream brands I like. We've been through some stuff on just how to cover up and hopefully not get burnt, and make sure that you take your sun cream with you. And we've briefly looked at some of what to do when you get burnt as well. Hopefully all of that was useful. If so, please give this video a thumbs up. And if you want more video on triathlon and endurance sports, then hit the subscribe button, because that's what my channel is all about. And I would love to see you in another video. If you've got any thoughts on the things we've discussed here, then stick it in the comments box, because I'd love to hear from you as well.